Even if you didn't grow up in a family where empathy was the way of being with others, um, we can still get better at empathy by practicing it and becoming more aware of it. Um, and eventually it will become the natural way of being with others, and we won't have to think about it so consciously. But I've come up with a list of a few tips, pointers about creating empathic relationships that I'll share with you. The first is to adopt an attitude of curiosity about the other person's perspective. Rather than assuming that you know or understand, try to be curious and open to uh, understanding them. The second is to take turns. And this is a simple idea, but one that I think a lot of us don't uh, automatically do. If we can listen and understand the other person, then we also need to take our own turn in being heard. Sometimes we can be really good caregivers and listeners, but not so good at saying what we need and what we feel. So I think that this idea of listening to others and then allowing them to listen to us creates for a really healthy, mutual, empathic connection. Uh, the next thing is to remember to empathize first and then try to solve problems. Um, uh, Problem solving will get nowhere if each person does not feel fully understood by the other. So it's worth the initial and time investment to really try to understand the other person's position, even if it's vastly different from your own, and then hopefully to take turns and feel understood yourself. When two people in a conflict both feel that their position is understood and that it makes sense, then creative problem solving can really thrive and be productive. One way I like to think about this is to try to prove the other person right. Try to think of, again, putting yourself in their shoes, seeing it through their eyes, through their perspective, and trying to see how, given that, how they feel or think is right. Um, that can be a huge improvement in the communication when you're trying to see the sense in the other person's position rather than trying to prove them wrong and point out why they're wrong. Practice statements of empathy. Um, it makes sense to me that you would feel that way given da 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 da, or I can see how you would feel angry. Um, Saying things like that automatically puts you in a more empathic kind of reference point. Empathy does not mean agreement, and often I think that's where we get stuck, is that we think that if we empathize with someone and try to understand their position, that we're in effect saying that we agree with them. But they're two really different things, and we can really be empathic to someone else and still say, I have a different view on that. And hopefully, again, the mutual exchange can lead to then really productive problem solving. Become aware of feelings and situations that are difficult to empathize with. There are many situations, if we feel guilty about causing someone else pain, that it's really hard then to be empathic to their pain and to be open and want to hear more about how they hurt. That's just one example, but I think there are many situations where it's really difficult for us to put our own feelings aside and empathize with the other. Remember, what we give is what we receive, and that we really, the mutual empathy back and forth is really the healthiest kind of relationship and communication, and we're much more likely to get empathy back if we're able to give it. Shift your focus about what is mentally healthy. Now we're coming to understand that the ability to connect with other people is really the highest kind of mental health and mental strength. It's not independence and autonomy and being self-sufficient and doing it all on our own. This is a cultural norm that we've grown up with, and we're really coming to understand the capacity to really connect with other people is what we should be striving for in terms of feeling strong and mentally healthy. Make your goal understanding the other rather than fixing, helping, or directing them. This can be really difficult, especially in a classroom situation where you really, do have to keep charge of the situation. But it's amazing to me how when we take an empathic stance with other people uh, and it brings them to their best again, and they can start thinking and using their own judgment, their own logic, even young kids. It may be, in the end, the most efficient way to keep control of a situation is to try to understand the kids' feelings and behaviors and responses. And finally, find empathy for yourself. Sometimes this can be the hardest one of all. We tend to beat up on ourselves or be judgmental about ourselves, but if you can find some empathy for yourself and appreciate why you're feeling down or stuck or not able to do something, you're much more likely then to be able to move past it. So hopefully you can be a little bit more empathic with your own needs and feelings.